All right, hey everyone, I'm Ty Jones, and we are here talking about fibroids and womb wellness. We are being unapologetic because this is big womb energy. We want you to know, like, there is options out there. There's alternatives to healing for fibroids, and there's so many women out there who have testimonies. And I have one who is here with me right now. I call her a unicorn, and you'll understand why. Today we have Nurse Nikki. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm excited to have you. We've been trying to plan this for a long time.
A minute.
Yes. So let the people know who you are and, a little bit about what you do.
Yep. So I'm Nurse Nikki. My government name is Nikki Hunter Greenaway. I'm a family nurse practitioner. I'm a lactation consultant and just an overall women's health advocate. I'm the owner of Bloom Maternal Health, a perinatal health clinic in Houston.
Yep, right here in Houston. So if you're looking for those services, definitely hit her up because I definitely will. We are in our stage of trying to conceive, and we're going to go with IUI. I am 43, and I'll be 44 this year. So I'm not giving up, and there's hope. I have great quality eggs and just had some hiccups. But today we're going to talk about Nikki's journey on her fibroid healing and what she did to, overcome the struggles and how she's a unicorn. Because I've never heard of fibroids not coming back,
right,
as you said.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you get on this journey, of healing holistic? What prompted you? Was it having fibroids, or was it just because you...
Yeah, I think it was having fibroids. When somebody tells me there's a growth in my body that's not supposed to be there, clearly I put something in it that prompted the growth. And just kind of really, it all started just like there was so much pain and just constantly being in pain. Now as I look back on my journey, I kind of think about, everyone calls Auntie Tabitha Brown's journey of she was in pain and she's like, I got to do something different.
She had fibroids?
She had just overall pain or something going on in her body. And I was like, well, so I had a lot of pain and I said, I have to do something different. One of the things that I did was I stopped getting relaxers. And I was like, and this is even before the research came out.
Yeah.
Even before the research came out, I'm like, because something got to be wrong where I'm up here, tapping my head.
Curly hair, don't care. I stopped getting relaxers too.
Tapping my head, just anxious of the burning, the itchiness. I'm like, how does your head itch before you're supposed to get it? I'm like, and then you get it and then it's burning. They're like, oh, it's fine. Everything's going to be fine. And I'm like, this can't be right.
Right.
This can't be right.
My head is on fire.
Right. They're like, it's going to be beautiful. So I stopped getting that. I did a big chop. I realized how much fruits and vegetables I wasn't eating because I was in a grad program and it was kind of on the go type of situation. So I was like, okay, let me improve my diet. At the time I was in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. So if you've ever been to New Orleans, the food is good and it sticks to you. Yeah. And it's hard finding that kind of food anywhere else, but we need to get our fruits and vegetables and things like that. I needed to exercise, so I started jogging. So I started doing all of these things, but I was still having pain. And sometimes you can do all the things and you still have pain. So I opted to have surgery.
Okay. And so before all of this, how did you know that you had fibroids? Did you get the ultrasound you found out, or you had to go to the emergency room? Mm-hmm. How did you find out?
It was knowing that something wasn't right with my periods. Mm-hmm. It was man, I am hemorrhaging just about every month. I'm wearing a Depend. I am wearing a overnight pad. I am wearing, the underwear. Before the underwear was a thing, I was making basically kind of makeshifting my own, these underwear are just for my period. Yeah. and so it was this is not right. So our OBGYN has been our family's OBGYN for years. So I went to him and did an ultrasound and he was like, you have some pretty significant fibroids.
Right. How big were they?
Now that I don't know, but as far as the centimeters, but I like to equate everything to something in real life. Right. So one was the size of a plum and the other one was the size of what they could see, because all we know, ultrasound, there's so many stories of women having ultrasounds and they're like, oh, I have 3. And then we see the pictures and like, oh, I had 12.
Right.
And so I had 2. One was a plum. I think one was like a lemon or something like that. I didn't see any changes in my body as far as the outside effect of like my stomach or anything like that. But as I got on, I felt like something was moving in my body. Like as I'm walking, I'm like, why does it feel this way? Yeah. I also started to get this really nagging pain when my bladder was full. As a nurse, we don't pee a lot. Yeah. So I had a full bladder. Every time I get a full bladder, I couldn't even bear weight on my right foot. Wow. And I was just like, I'm tiptoeing. He was like, what is going on with you? I'm like, he said, it must be the fibroids. It must be hitting a nerve or something. I'm like, okay. So we went in to do surgery, and I remember these days so clearly. My boyfriend at the time was there, who's now my husband. My mom was there, and I had it done in Dallas, which is where I'm originally from. I could have done it in New Orleans, but I'm like, I don't know, y'all. That's why you always should have a trusted provider. I didn't really trust the doctors in New Orleans at the time because I was new there. I said, I'm going back home to where I know. Right. Went there. He said, we're going to do laparoscopic. It should be fine. And when I wake up from surgery, I'm like, no, this don't feel like laparoscopic. Like, you cut me. And my mom said, I could hear you from post-op saying you cut me. Yeah. That was the biggest fear, because I felt like if I was cut, I would not be able to have children, which is actually not true. But in my head, I was just like, he cut me because I'm thinking he cut across my uterus. Well, come to find out, the fibroid was attached to my bladder, which is why every time my bladder expanded and got full, I would have this pain. Wow. And I was like, it was nothing they could see. And then I ended up having like 6 fibroids in there, and they were all outside of my uterus, not on the inside. So some people have pedunculated, which means they're outside hanging like grapes. Right. And then some people have inside the membrane. Some people have some actually in the cavity. So I had him outside, but he still had to make that. He said, I really need to see. I had to scrape the fibroid off of your bladder. And I had a catheter for a week because I was like, this is too much. Like,
it is. Like, because for me, like all these years, I've only known to have 3 fibroids, getting ultrasound. Right. Let's monitor. And come to find out on this fertility journey, I have 6. But my period is only 4 or 5 days. I have a 1.5 heavy day. I mean, that's it. And ultrasounds don't tell you how many fibroids you actually have.
They're not as accurate.
An MRI is more accurate, that I found out, to let you know how many fibroids you have. Yeah. Instead of wasting all that time continuing to get an ultrasound. And I was just like, well, why didn't y'all just tell me this in the first place? And
questions that need answers.
Exactly. And so I'm glad that in the past we met. We actually didn't meet face to face.
No.
We met on social media.
Yes.
You found my my flyer for my 2K skate that I have every year, and she inboxed me, and she wanted to be a supporter to help with the mission that I'm doing, and that's how we met. And like God puts people in your path, and she has been amazing. I love her spirit. I love her energy.
Oh, thank you.
And so I'm glad that I had the chance, to talk to you more about your journey, because I'm on that journey to have surgery. And I always thought, like, I'm never going to have surgery because, the side effects, everything's all natural. But I come to the stage where I am in my life to have kids, and I have to have the surgery. Right. And you were telling me it's okay. And so you're the third confirmation saying, it's okay. So I'm okay with having surgery, because I know after I have the surgery, I'm still going to do the preventative, holistic, natural therapeutic ways for them to not come back and eat right and stuff like that. So you can still have surgery if you want the surgery, but make sure you're doing the things that, for fibroids not to come back. And so that is the goal, for them not to come back. And yours did not come back after surgery.
I had set the stage kind of before the surgery of like trying to help with the pain and trying to help with the periods, because as we know, your diet does everything for your body, whether you have headaches or period pain or muscle pain. change, looking at your diet. And so I really started drinking water because I love a good cold Coke. A good cold Coke.
So water right here. Water. It's plastic bottle. Okay, but look, this is what we have right now.
So, trying to change it. So afterwards, I was already on that path of, number one, we needed fibrous foods because that first bowel movement after having abdominal surgery, like you want ease in your life. And then just like getting my family on board, like these are the things that we need to do in order to better our health. As far as women's health, because I think we're often overlooked. It takes so long to get a diagnosis for some women as far as fibroids, as far as this is the treatment plan, because they're like, oh, well, it's just your period. Okay, your period is like one of your vital signs. Right. That is what they ask you when I educate young women about their periods when they go to the high school or the middle school. I always tell them, now that you've started your period, keep a note of the date, because when you go to the doctor, they're now going to ask you every single time, when was your last menstrual period? Exactly. It is a vital sign because it really can affect your whole body based on the procedures we can do and the tests that we can do and the tests that we're not going to do while you're on your period, because it's just not the optimal time for the body. So really having that in mind and just keeping track of my period and like just being more in tune with my body. Like once you have something removed or, something like that really does affect your body and changes it for the good, I want to make sure that I keep track of making sure I use my period app or whatever, whatever you're using to track your period. How am I feeling around my period? Did it really help me or do I have more problems? And it really did help me. So I continued on and I had it in 2012, my surgery, myomectomy. And I haven't had any fibroids since then.
That is why I call her a unicorn, because she is the first person I've ever heard to say after having a myomectomy, the fibroids did not grow back.
It didn't grow back.
So you said you barely changed, a little what you were eating. So like, are you still eating red meat? Or
I still eat red meat. I still eat red meat for sure. I really tried I tried doing vegan. It was really hard for me. Just like because I get hypoglycemic and things like, I wasn't eating enough food and I just couldn't figure out how to add more substance. Again, in New Orleans, we don't have a whole lot of vegan options. So I was like, well, I'm just going to be hungry or I'm going to have to eat. So one thing I did cut back on pork tremendously. Like I may have a piece of bacon a month with my kids because like, Mommy, remember you used to eat it? And I'm like, oh. I do absolutely drink more water. Cut back on sodas almost completely. Maybe having as just like a treat for myself, refined sugar. Right. I don't really play with refined sugar like that. Right. So those are but definitely up in my fruits and vegetables and getting fruits and vegetables from the farmer's market. From a place, I get my fruits and vegetables in season. If they're out of season, I call them conflict. I said, I don't want conflict fruit. I don't want it because it tends to have more pesticides and things like that on it because they're trying to grow it in a space that it's actually, time is not supposed to grow. So those can disrupt your hormones and things like that. I stopped using certain fragrances in my house, like synthetic fragrances, because I'm like, dang, that's really strong.
Like the plug-in?
Yeah, it really doesn't have to be candles? That strong. So I also very cautious about, who I buy my candles from. A little small batch company in Atlanta that I buy candles from, who I know who uses great products. And she actually just the other day contacted me. She's like, I have a new product. You want to try it out? And I was like, so this is, I like that type of stuff. Instead of big name, big box, all the big things, making stuff at home. Now, I absolutely took out processed foods. I'm not eating anything out of a box, frozen. I just can't do it. I like cooking more. So I really unlocked my joy for cooking. Just those small little things, bit by bit, because I know sometimes you hear people say, I did all of these things. Maybe you can't do all those things because you don't have capacity, mental, physical, emotional, whatever. I tell people just baby steps. If you just, take a water bottle with you everywhere you go and just keep filling it up and just drink water. Or buy a pack of apples. Apples are in season right now. Eat an apple a day. If we could just make those small changes, then it becomes a habit and then it just becomes our lifestyle. So
What about like the supplements? Like you need vitamin D3, you need zinc, you need like all these different supplements. Do you take those now? Were you taking those before?
I did not take them then, but I do take them now because I feel like I'm over the age of 40 and it's time. But I do take that, and I actually feel so much better. I was kind of, because I'm not a pill taker, I really prefer to get it from the food that I eat, but I also understand a busy lifestyle, I may not get all of those vitamins and nutrients.
Right.
So I do take a multivitamin. Now with my multivitamins, I want it to be tested. I want to see some reviews, because we can't just be out here taking anything they stuff in a capsule.
Yes.
So I think the one that I have is vegan, and it doesn't have any soy in it. I realize that soy actually really disrupts my body in a bad way. So I take my Happy Flow.
I've heard of that.
So I have that, and then I take some a blood booster. So I still take that because I want my iron storage to be good. So Mega Food, it's all the foods that you're supposed to eat, because if I want somebody to take iron, I don't want them to necessarily take synthetic iron. I want them to take something that the body can easily absorb.
Right.
So, but other than that, I go outside and get my vitamin D as often as I can. I stay outside because, and like I'm a unicorn in that way. Like I'm probably the only black person with a vitamin D that's normal.
Mine was normal like last year. Then I've been stressed like for a while, so I think that's where the other fibroids grew, because you know, stress.
Stress. Oh my gosh.
Yes, it will definitely create more havoc in the womb with creating more fibroids. And so I've been stressed for the past year, I would say.
Oh.
But I'm learning how to, you know, bring my stress down. I've been drinking like some holy basil. I've been meditating. I take my Epsom salt baths just to relax and get that magnesium in. And it's just been a journey for me, a long journey. I started this fertility journey in 2022. Yeah. And it's expensive.
Yes.
And so I'm like, am I going to be able to have kids? Because it is so expensive, having to keep going to the doctor, having to keep, you know, getting blood work and all of this. So as you were on your journey to your myomectomy, what was that like?
It was, I would say it's expensive in more ways than financial. It's expensive of your time, of your energy, of your emotions, because you like, it's just all the things, because one, you have, you know, you go into all these multiple providers. Sometimes not everybody's in alignment. I'm living in one state, but I'm going to a provider in another state, and the people in this state were like, you don't really need that. And I'm like, no, but over here they said that I do. And then just going to another state, like, because I wasn't confident in the care that I was getting in one state. Insurance doesn't cross state lines. So paying for out of pocket, I think and then I'm still trying to finish my grad program, do my job at work, where I'm working with young teen mothers who had no problem getting pregnant. And I think it's very expensive in more ways than financial, because I was emotionally spent. And one thing I wanted for sure is that I had been with my boyfriend at the time, now my husband, for 10 years. And I was like, I want to be able to have children. Like, I'm the oldest of my siblings. All of my siblings have kids. And I was like, I don't want to let y'all down. And I was like, and why do I have to go through all this? Like, none of my sisters had this issue. I'm like, what makes me so unique? Like, what did I eat? What did I expose myself? And you ask yourself all these questions. So getting up to that point, I think it was a test of my patience, a test of my faith, and just really questioning a lot of things. And after the myomectomy, even still, I was like, how do we know it worked? How do we know, like, and I was like, I don't want to be out here like rabbits trying to figure out if it worked. But just like trusting the process. I think once you've made up your mind, you have to trust the process, but also continue to advocate for yourself. Obviously asking questions and, you know, educate the people around you in case you get to the point where you're just spent and you're like, I don't even, you do get to a point where you're like, I don't care. just do whatever. And people around you are like, no. So my partner, my husband, was now able to ask questions. My mother was asking questions, you know, and then people were kind of reflecting upon themselves like, I need to go get checked out, you know? So it really does start a movement in your space of people just kind of checking within and checking on their own health.
Yeah. So after you had the myomectomy, how long was it before you had your first child?
I had the myomectomy in March of 2012. I got married in October of 2012, and I had my baby. No, I think it took a year.
A year.
It took a year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Were you surprised, or?
It took us some time. I'll say that, because for whatever reason I needed Clomid. I wasn't ovulating. I was like, I did
IVF?
I didn't do IVF. I just had to do Clomid.
Oh, you just
because I wasn't, for whatever reason, I wasn't ovulating. And so they gave me that to jumpstart ovulation. I was bat crazy for a couple of months, and I was like, get me off of this stuff. Like, we are not doing this anymore. And it was, you know, after Mardi Gras, and I just kind of, I had a good Mardi Gras and I got pregnant.
Relax, just have fun.
And I, you know, tons of people tell me that. And I'm like, my mom, you know, no one else has ever had this problem. Like, I'm like, so it's me. So there's something wrong with me. But I got pregnant, and then I just started continuing to get pregnant. Yeah. And we had a miscarriage in between our first and our second. And then we went on and had a second, and then we had the second and the third really close together, because I'm like, what is this? What is this about? So my husband's like, we got to shut this down. Clearly we're on a roll now. But yeah, it was a journey.
And as supportive as your husband is, how important is that? Because I know it's important for me, because he knows everything. So he tries to tell his daughter, use this, or, let me help you out. And she's like, how do you know all this stuff? You don't even know all this. This is my personal business. But it's good that they're supportive, because we need that. Yeah,
and it's also important not just to like tell them about your doctor's appointments, but allow them to visit the doctor's appointment so they can actually see, because I think while it's one thing to hear it, it's another thing to actually see it, because 85% of our population are visual learners. Like, they have to see it. Yeah. And so him being there, and he's like, oh, that's what it's like. Or him being in the bathroom, because I'm like, oh, can you hand me a pad? And he's like, what is all this blood all over the floor? Yeah. He's like, is this what happens to you every month? Every month, bro. He was like, oh, you got to get this. Like, something has to change. Like, how are you able to, function? Or after the procedure, I was like, can you help me? And so him putting, pads on and helping with the dressings and things like that really made it a part of the process, but also a part of the recovery, because I think it was a part of his recovery also, because he had to, I'm sure, had some sadness or things like that during this. So I really wanted him to be a part of it. Even my mom, I was like, I want you to hear how this situation is going, because I feel like generations before us were not empowered to speak about certain things. The doctor knows everything. Don't ask any questions. This is normal. And that's how they have probably one of the highest hysterectomy rates than any generation. So I wanted to make her a part of the process, to know that, there are other options. You did not have to get your uterus taken out at 40.
Yeah. And some 20, 30.
Right.
Like, that's why we're here doing this show. Like, you do not have to have a hysterectomy. If you choose to, okay. Fine. But we want to let you know that there are options. And don't be afraid to speak up, speak your mind, get multiple opinions, and just do what you have to do. Be your own self-advocate. Right. We have to be our own self-advocate. If not, then you're going to have the doctors controlling your body. Right. And you have no say-so.
And don't do it alone. Like I tell my patients, don't do birth alone. Don't do any of this journey alone. Anytime, you go to the doctor, try and have somebody with you, because so they can help you process the things that were said. They could hear something that you may have missed, and you can hear something. Y'all put it together like over lunch. It's like, okay, so this is what's happening. This is the game plan. This is what they said is your treatment plan. So any time like this, we only really do that with our elders, and then we do it with our babies, and where someone goes to the doctor, but we need that also. Like, I would have loved at the beginning stages of like somebody coming to the doctor with me. Maybe I would have been able to have the surgery in Louisiana and not have to go to Texas. But I'm just sitting there like, wait, what are you saying? That doesn't even make sense, bro. Like, like, you're not making any sense. Or having another person sometimes, and I know some people get scared because they're like, I'm not an aggressive person like that. I don't, like, oh, I'm just gonna, whatever they say, they can, and it really is about finding a provider that you feel comfortable sharing, your opinion. Like, actually, that's not gonna work for me. If you can't say, actually, that's not going to work for me to your provider, you may need a new provider. You may need a new provider if you can't speak your mind, if it's just a one-sided conversation. That's the foundation of healthcare. That is the foundation of having therapeutic relationships with the providers that you encounter. I tell young girls when I talk to them, I'm like, talk to your provider. Don't let your parent do all the talking. You're the one experiencing these things. Tell them about your period. Tell them how you're feeling. I let my kids talk. When they go to the doctor, oh, Mom, how they doing? Ask them. I don't know. I'm just here. I just drive them.
That's like what happened. Like, for me, I took it when I went and got my hysteroscopy, and it was a Caucasian doctor. And she was like, oh, it's going to hurt a little bit. Oh, you're so strong. You can handle like that. I took offense to
I
that.
absolutely would.
And, I didn't say anything, but it didn't hit me till after, like, you're so strong. I kind of tortured you a little bit. And just thinking back to how our ancestors were tortured, like, that didn't sit well with me. Yeah. And I was just like, she really said that? She really said that to me. And it just made me very emotional to, like, I have to have somebody that that looks like me, have my same values, that's going to be on this journey with me. So that's where I was. I was just like, torture.
Trigger words.
Yes, trigger word. That's what that was, a trigger word. So I'm definitely excited that I was able to, be in your space with you and just pick your brain and let other women know, there is light at the end of the tunnel with dealing with fibroids. Wanting to have kids, being infertility wise, you can still have kids. You just need the support. Contact Miss Nikki.
Oh, yeah. And even if you don't want to have children, like if you just want better quality of life, thinking of ways, thinking outside of the box or things like that, because I want everyone to be well, and I want people to enjoy life without limitations, meaning whether it's your uterus hurting all the time or any of those things. Like, I want y'all to enjoy life. So. Yeah.
So it's about wellness. If you don't feel right, go see someone. Don't just take your doctor's word for it. Seek other alternatives. Nikki was brought to me from the universe, and so I'm so happy that, we're going to continue to grow our relationship. We're going to do some great work together. So you guys stay tuned. I'm going to have more episodes with other women like Nikki who was on this fibroid journey and actually healed naturally, or they had surgery, whatever the case is, that they overcame, fibroids. And that's what it's about. I'm on this journey, so you're going to be following me on my journey of my surgery and having kids. So stay tuned.